Cool. So it says that we are live, and I hope that is true. Just to make sure, I am going to jump into an incognito window and throw that in there. Oh, cool. Yeah. Right away. Like I heard my own voice. Wow. I don't like that feeling. What is it about hearing our own voice that sounds like just really weird and wrong?
I just sound like my mother.
I hope that's not true for me. I mean, like, not in a bad way. I just... Anyways. Hi, Audre. And if anyone is watching this, like, there's probably a higher chance of people watching this part as a replay rather than right now, because a lot of people have a bit of a hard time, you know, jumping online, like, right when we launch. So... yeah, so this is, for those watching this now, this is part of a monthly Patreon stream to the $5 and up subscribers. So if you want to get live access to all of these art chats, interviews, whatever you want to call it, if you are on, I've been hosting them so far. This is the third one. So on my Patreon, at least, if you want to follow me as the host, you can pledge to my 5 and up tiers. And if anyone else announces that they're going to do the monthly broadcast, then you can ask them.
I gotta figure out, because I want to do is a drawing one, so I have to figure out how to share screens and video at the same time.
Okay, cool.
Get that.
Yeah. There you go. So you can at least follow Audre. Every Patreon page has a free follow feature. So anything that any of us post publicly, you'll still see stuff from us. So I do recommend to just at least follow everybody on the free feature if you're not sure about, you know, following an artist yet. So do that right now. So let's start off with, before we get into anything, to learn a little bit about Audre. If you're one of my patrons, you've obviously heard me talk enough about what I do. But for Audre's patrons who are going to be watching this as well, and anyone online who find this on YouTube, really short spiel about me is I'm an independent artist, fantasy art, a lot of dragons. I do illustration, paintings, also nature and wildlife. So I'm a little bit mixed. I specialize in watercolor, and for the most part, as far as traditional media goes, and then I use Photoshop for my digital illustrations. So those are kind of like my two main things. And of course, we all do like pencil and ink and stuff, like kind of smattering around, but those are kind of my two focuses as far as the art that I do. And independent just means that I'm not working for any companies or anything like that. I just kind of do my own thing and then do conventions and stuff. So with that out of the way, Audre, tell us about yourself.
Well, you and I are quite a bit alike in that I'm also, well, technically freelance. I do random gigs for indie games, but I also do a bunch of conventions all year long, and I largely draw monsters. I also work in watercolor a lot, and I like to work in ink a lot, and I like to do Yupo paper, which is this weird stuff that, which is semi-transparent, as you can see. Very fancy. Anyways, and I do digital every once in a while, but I largely stick to traditional media. I don't know. I like the feel of it. And yeah, I don't have...
Tell us how you got into art and like why you do what you do then. I know everyone's wondering that. That's what, like, the first thing that every artist gets asked, right? Like, where'd you start?
I grew up like in the middle of nowhere. Like I had one neighbor, and then every other neighbor was like a mile and a half away, and then we still were like a 20-minute drive from like the nearest store, and we did not have much money. So my mom worked at a publishing company, or not a like a graphics design company. So she would bring home like reams of paper and old pencils, and that was what I had to play with. So that's where I started doing art. I mean, my mom is a graphic artist, but like I never actually saw her draw until I was like 17. So like she didn't really do any of that part. She had this awesome self-portrait in her bedroom, and didn't see. I think I saw it twice in my life because she hid it behind a dresser. It was weird.
You just like uncover it one day.
Yeah, she's like, see, I can draw, and then she like tucks it back away.
Just slides out ominously. Then
yeah, it was a beautiful like pencil, like huge pencil, really lifelike drawing of her, and then yeah, I don't know, she doesn't draw anymore. It's sad.
Oh,
yeah.
So it was literally like just kind of a side hobby for her then, essentially.
I mean, I guess she still technically does art, but it's largely like designing boring people's business cards.
Oh, okay. Graphic design then, right? Well, cool. So you specialize in basically like pencil. I see you use a lot of pencil, right? So, yes. And your Yupa paper, which is like really cool, actually. Like I've never tried that before, and
it's like
curious.
Vellum. It's done with vellum.
It's kind of clear, right? It's like really smooth and a little bit transparent.
You can get it in like white where it's not transparent, but I like the transparent because it's like you can do nifty stuff behind it. So
I bet it would scan really well, right?
No, they scan fine.
Yeah, no, they do scan well. Like that's what I mean. Yes. Like they probably scan super well.
I mean, I've done drawing on like Duralar, and that one every time, like even on a flatbed scanner, you still get like a little shadow, which is annoying. But
yeah. So I had another question for you. So I guess the question would be like, how did you decide what you love to draw? Because you draw a lot of like monsters and stuff. I see you draw monsters all the time, right? Like really creepy, like several extra limbs and like bodies like contorted together, and like some of them have like a ton of boobs and stuff. Like
that is
you're into monsters. Like why does that area of art interest you so much?
I don't know, it's kind of weird. Like I grew up, I read a ton, and it was almost entirely like I didn't really start with children's books, so I didn't really get the soft, fluffy things. Because I read whatever we had in the house, which was like Reader's Digest.
Oh gosh, I remember those.
Like John Grisham novels. So like I started immediately with like adult content. And I mean, that wasn't exactly what I liked. It was just what I had. So when I like started choosing books for myself, it was like all Goosebumps and all the scary stories stuff. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. And then I loved Stephen Gamel's work and scary stories. And so I've always loved horror. Like I loved all the horror movies growing up. And I don't know, I didn't actually draw it until like college because it was like super religious family. It was like, do not. No, you're summoning Satan, but you know.
Now you're really trying to summon Satan, though.
Yeah, no, I'm not being accepted by family, so. But yeah, I don't know. It was a weird way, but yeah, I never really had like that childhood fluffy friendly stuff.
Yeah, like I liked a lot of the fluffy stuff, except when it came to like dragons. I did not like cute fluffy dragons. Like I didn't like fat dragons. I didn't like the one with little tiny wings. They ticked me off. Even as a kid, I was just like, why? Why do you draw them like this? They don't fly by like blowing themselves up into a balloon. What the heck?
Not like the Neopet style.
No, they were like drawn kind of realistically, except they had little tiny wings and they would fly. There's actually a movie, I'm referring to like a specific movie, like back in the 90s when there was like no dragon movies, like at all.
It was only Falkor from Neverending Story and like Dragonheart. Those were like...
Yeah. No, there was this like obscure, maybe it was drawn in the 80s. There's like this obscure cartoon that was just on TV one day, and it was like a dragon movie. And I remember setting the alarm to like watch it, and I wish I could remember the name of it. And I was just like, oh yes, a dragon movie I haven't seen. And then I sit down and it was like kind of rendered in the 80s style, if you know what I mean, like cartoon style. But when they finally showed the dragons, they had like tiny wings and they were gigantic, and they would eat like these certain rocks, and then like when they digested the rocks, it would make a gas, and they would like expand and fly that way. They didn't even use their wings.
I remember this.
Do you like? It was so old.
Or was it I remember a cartoon show called like Dragon Tales, and it was like
no. That was like a kids cartoon show. This was like a movie that was like older. I think there was like a couple, like there was some wizards and stuff in it. But I remember it was long enough. It was definitely like some sort of movie, but
I do remember the whole eating rock thing.
Yeah. That was weird. Like you fly by eating something that's really heavy, okay?
That's an Anne McCaffrey thing too.
Is it?
Yeah, the Pern dragons, they eat like firestone.
Oh, it's funny because I read those books too. Yeah, you're probably right.
Everybody's gotta weigh down the dragons.
Anyway, slightly off. Well, big tangent, right? So let's get back to like what you're working on now. So Kickstarter is something that a lot of artists do, and I think we're all getting into because like our reach on the internet is like this big anymore. So Kickstarter, first of all, we all don't have a ton of money. So a lot of things cost like a lot of money. Like for example, getting my set of 6 pins made for my January Kickstarter it's in the thousands of dollars to get those actually like made.
Yeah.
And that's not something that we can just like cough up on a regular basis. So Kickstarter helps us actually produce our product, like a large portion of our product often. Yeah. In your case, Audrey, you're on your second book, correct? So you've already done a Kickstarter for your first book, and if you have one nearby, I can maybe like hold that up. I can also like flip to your screen if you want to like pull up your Kickstarter. But this is interesting because Kickstarter is also a very fickle place. So like on the artist side of things, it takes like literally there are like pages and pages worth of research and blogs and like how-tos in order to just set up a Kickstarter. There's so much work that goes into one of these. And all we're trying to do is just get stuff like made because it's just like one of us versus like a company that just has this huge like pool of resources. And we're just like, I think I found a manufacturer through this like other guy who knows a guy. And they can get this thing. They can get a thing made for me. It's only gonna cost 10 grand. Yeah.
Yeah, also known as how all of us get our playmats made.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I pulled up the Kickstarter. I also have one of the copies of the book. I keep going the wrong direction.
I do that too.
No, this is the first one. So this is largely just a sketch.
Yeah. So that book, Emerald City, like 2 years ago, I think. Yeah, it was last year. Not this year's Emerald City, but last year.
It was the first homegrown. Yeah.
Yeah, because you had that book, and I think you were gone, and I ran by and I like bought it from your husband. I was just like, I need this.
Well, that was Bruce kept he keeps sending people to me. Bruce is awesome that way.
He knows me that way though too.
Oh, but yeah, no, trying to think. So that one was originally supposed to be just 80 pages because I had like I had a tiny goal for that one. I only had like $1,000 because I was like, I'll just print 100, and yeah, it kind of exploded. I was lucky I got the Project We Love thing right away, but yeah, it ended up being like 130 something pages at the end. Because I kept adding pages.
That's the thing too, though, is like we feel like if we're gonna run a Kickstarter on a book or go through all the trouble of making a book, that we want it to be substantial and have like a lot of content. So it's easy to just say like, well, I could add just like a few more pages and then it'll feel more fulfilling for anybody who buys it and everything. So what
were you saying?
I was gonna say on the screen, I pulled up your screen. So we're looking at Audrey's screen for her That's your old, is that your old Kickstarter?
That's the old one.
That's the old one. So flip over to your, let's see your new one right now. Cause it's live, by the way. So if you're coming across this now, or in a week from when this is being recorded is when it goes public. When does it end, by the way?
August 30th.
Okay. So yeah, this art chat will be live by the time.
Yeah.
Or before it ends. Excuse
me. You okay? Katie is sick because she just
I'm so sick.
Scotland got you sick.
Okay. Audrey, talk for a bit. Tell us about your current Kickstarter. Well, I like hack my lung off.
Okay. So current Kickstarter is Dark Mythos. So the first Kickstarter was creature sketchbook, because I draw creatures constantly, daily, and I was like, I should actually make a compendium of these things. So that one was in 2017. And now this one is actually like a themed one. It's because I've been drawing creatures from mythology for like the past year on Yupo paper, as after I discovered Yupo paper, and I was like, oh, this is fun and I love it. So I started slowly drawing creatures from mythology, and I was like, I have quite a few of these. I should actually do something. So I started making them into this book. So it's all black coal erase pencil on Yupo paper, which is like it's a synthetic paper, so it's kind of like drawing on plastic, and it's very finicky, but it's fun. So these are, right now it's got about, it started with 50 creatures when I made the Kickstarter, and I have added significantly more because I have a problem. So there's like up to 60 now. But so it's all creatures, my re-envisioning of creatures from mythology from all over the world. There's ones from like Chile, and there's a lot of Native American ones. I tried going with ones that not everybody knows, like the Paiute, the Stikini. Those are two really weird Native American ones that I love. There's some fairly common ones too in there. There's the griffin and the cockatrice, the minotaur, but I'm putting little info blurbs on each of them, like little short stories about what they are about. So I'm hoping with the book that it's not just like cool art, it's also a learning experience, and people will look at this and be like, oh, that's cool, and then they'll go research it some more and hopefully be like me and amass a large collection of mythology books.
And you were hey, I'm getting feedback from you, Audrey.
You getting
okay
feedback from me?
Yeah, I think we're good now. I don't know where it came from. Sorry, I turned off my mic. I'm still getting a little bit of feedback from you. Do you have your speakers on by chance?
Oh, let me see.
Excuse me, guys. Wow.
There you go.
Okay, cool. I think we're good. Okay, yeah, we're good. What was I saying? I kept having to turn my mic off because I was like coughing like crazy. I just got like that tickle in my throat, and I'm like, oh great, this is gonna be like eye-watering bad. But you, as far as all the creatures and stuff go, you were actually doing. Was it during May that you were? We good? I can't hear you though, Audrey. You're silent though. Anyways, while Audrey figures out her thing, I believe it was during May that you were doing some sort of challenge. Like it was a daily art challenge with all these mythical creatures. So you actually made a list, and you were kind of promoting everyone else's daily drawings of these creatures as you were doing them. And that would have only been 30 days. So obviously you've continued it beyond 30 days. Audrey, do you mute yourself? Hey, at the bottom of the screen, Audrey, there's an actual like mute icon. Make sure you didn't hit that or something. We've lost Audrey's sound. hopefully it's not on my end. I still can't hear you, so. Audrey, type in the chat. Type in the chat so I can see what you're saying. Oh, she's disconnecting and reconnecting. Okay, so that's fine. She'll be able to come back on really fast. So from what I remember, I've seen Audrey starting the book from the daily art challenges. And I think I did a few books myself, just like very small sketchbooks where like Inktober is one of them, where the art challenges, you make a inked drawing every day during the month of October. So by the end of that, you have 31 drawings, which can make a pretty nice little like small sketchbook, which I've had in the past. I'm seeing her icon pop up and it's not working. So I've done small sketchbooks like that, and usually they're just saddle stitch, which is where you staple the book together rather than like a nice hardbound like a soft cover book, something that you would find like, you know, on the bookshelf in a bookstore or something like that. But I have something similar going where a few years ago I started an Inktober, and I extended that to something that is far beyond the 31 illustrations. I'm actually shooting for 50. And let's see, Audrey's having trouble reconnecting her webcam, so I'm going to message her, and hopefully once this video is up, I'll just be able to edit this part out. So we'll see. I'm gonna ask her if maybe restarting her computer might help, because she just got disconnected from her webcam, which isn't good. Not sure what happened. I think we've got enough time to just have her restart her computer. But what I might be able to do is pull up. Okay, she's gonna restart. I'm just looking at my other monitor that's over here on the left side of me. So she's gonna go do that. Excuse me. Which isn't really ideal because I am so sick. Like, I just came back from there's a bug flying around. I just came back from a trip from overseas. So my husband and I, we went to Dublin and then London and then Edinburgh in Scotland, which was absolutely amazing. I'm very, very careful about using a lot of hand sanitizer, but somehow we managed to get sick like during the last like 2 days of the trip, 2 or 3 days. And we were there for like about 2.5 weeks, which was like the longest I've ever been away. But boy, I got so much like really good inspiration from that trip too. And I took like 3,000 photos, and that's not an understatement. There might be more than 3,000 photos. But yeah, I love the landscape there, and we went through a whole bunch of museums and stuff, which is like really cool and kind of opened my eyes to the fact that like maybe the stuff I've been seeing online art-wise is like the wrong stuff. Like, it sounds terrible. Like, everyone online, not everybody, but a lot of people kind of tend to do the same style or level of things online because we all sort of tend to emulate like each other, the things we see. So going to an art museum and seeing like a completely different style of artwork and medium, like oil paintings and like huge oil paintings, has like really kind of like reinvigorated my sense of like personal like inspiration, and that maybe the style I do is not. Oh, there's Audrey. I'm gonna add her back real quick. Audrey. Hey, Audrey. She's back.
That was.
I was just. It's okay. I was filling in with my trip to Dublin and Scotland and Edinburgh, and the fact that I went to an art museums, and it made me very inspired to like just do what I wanted to and not look at other people's art too much anymore. But hey, welcome back. If I talk too much, I'm gonna go on a coughing fit again. But I don't see anybody in the chat yet, and I didn't receive any particular questions regarding this. So we don't really have any specific questions to go on for this stream. So we're just kind of winging it. Audrey, do you happen to remember where we left off before you? I don't know how much of my side of the conversation you got, but we were just talking. I think it was something. Okay, so I mentioned that you started this book on basically an art challenge, a draw every day challenge, and that you had a lot of people following along with you. But I didn't know how many of the pieces outside of the challenge you had actually done beforehand or after that, right? Because it was during May, right?
Well, yeah, I did Mythic May, but I had started it. Not like officially in my mind was like, I'm going to do a Mythic book. But I had at least like 10 pieces before that, probably. And then I was like, so then I was like, I should make this into a book. And I did Mythic May to kind of like get enough content to actually justify a Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, ended up being surprisingly popular.
No, that's a good thing.
Yeah, no, it was fun. Like seeing all of the individual works every single day from like hundreds of people was awesome. Dogs.
That's all right. I've got the door closed and I can hear my cat softly meowing out there. So
yeah, well, I had it closed and then I could hear them shuffling around outside of it, just like doing the whole under the door sniffing. And when I went to open the door, there was just like bodies.
You can't escape now.
No, there's two of them in here.
Oh, I see them.
Yeah, the other one is barking.
I'm gonna real quick go. Oops, I forgot where I put the questions that I kind of had pre. Let's see.
So yeah, apparently turning on a Bluetooth headset at the same time as your webcam just breaks everything.
Oh, that's what happened. Okay, so we went over what mediums you chose to work in, kind of, right? Did we we kind of did. Like your favorite medium to work in and like why you chose that this series maybe?
I mean, I think I was like, I kind of, because I said that I had just gotten into Yupo paper and was enjoying it, and that just kind of snowballed.
So the Yupo paper.
It was, what?
And it works best. You've been using graphite and color pencil, or like black?
It's almost entirely coal erase pencil. I have started using graphite, though not like the typical graphite. I found liquid graphite, so I just started playing around with that to see if it will work, and it is a little bit. Like that's liquid graphite. Yeah. So I'm gonna maybe play around with that now.
And you were telling me a little bit that you liked the Yupo paper because it could like smudge really nicely.
Oh yeah, it is super smudgy. Which is why I have to wear like a little one of those little screen gloves whenever I'm working on it. Like I do have I did make one of those, what do they call them? The bars that you put over top of your work. You don't actually touch it.
Yeah, it's like
Alan Williams uses them.
Isn't it just like a stick of some kind?
It is. It's literally it's a 2-inch board that I used a furniture mover pad to like lift up, but I always forget to use it, and it's just kind of unwieldy. So I usually just use the glove. But it's also because with the Yupo paper, if you have oily fingers at the time and you're like touching the edges while you're drawing around it. And then you go later on and do like a whole background, rub or whatever. You'll get your fingerprints in there from your previous holding of paint.
We know who had this. Can't hide. You just use that as like your signature. Just like hide it somewhere and be like,
I was thinking. Yeah, no, I had that. Oh, let's see if I can find one. But I had that in, I think, my Red Dogs. I have no idea how to pronounce this correctly, so I'm not even going to try. What screen is it on? Okay, hold on. I have to do that
Oh.
share screen thing again.
Yeah, I can pull up your screen too. Just let me know when you've got it. I love this program, by the way, that we're using to broadcast from. There we go. That was so easy.
Fingerprints like down there. A little bit of fingerprints.
What's the... I'm trying to see if I can read what the name of the file is.
It's spelled CWNANNWN.
Oh, yeah, I can see how you couldn't. Okay. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So let's I'm curious. Like, did we go through the rest of the Kickstarter? Like, let's just go through that real quick about like what you're actually offering and like, because you're doing the book, right? Like, you're doing a soft cover book.
Yeah. I do have like a stretch goal for hardcover, but in order to make hardcover even remotely affordable, I have to order like 500 books. So it's if I get 500 backers thing. Because if not, it'd be like almost $20 a book.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
The artist struggle. It's real.
And then I'd have to also go through a different publisher because the publisher I've been using only does soft covers.
And that's really like a good thing to point out too, is a lot of people when you go to like a bookstore or like a mass producer of books, you're used to seeing a large book for like for sale for like $25, $29, like, right?
Yeah.
But for us, we have to print on such a small scale that like it costs us that much just to get it made. So like we have to that's why like a lot of artists, we have to mark up our books or like a lot of other items too, to like prices that seem like a very, very high premium. And in a way they are, because they're very, very limited quantities. Like, this is not something that's just shipped all over the world in like mass amounts, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, it is a premium as far as like the number of them that are in existence, and it literally is only touched by one person, like, you know, signed by one person, made by one person. But we almost like, we don't have a choice either. Because otherwise, like, we would never be able to make a living doing any of this. Like, you can't get a product and like make it for $20 and then sell it for 25, because there's just no way. You can't do it that way. So you said you have a goal of 500 for your hardcover, right? So you need
500 backers,
people. You need 500 people, because that's 500 books, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, because it goes from what was that?
Order doubles.
Well, yeah, because it's like if you order less than 400, I think it's $18 a book. And then if you order like 400, I think it gets down to like 12.
Yeah. And a couple bucks per book is a huge amount when everything's taken into consideration. If
you see an artist selling an art book for $20, they are making like $2 a book.
Or there's two options. They're either not making much money off of them, or maybe three, they magically found a magical printer somewhere who could print them very, very cheap and good quality. Hopefully, I've seen some pretty terrible quality books as well.
The publisher that I'm working with is the one that I used to work at, like that my mother still works at, and I get like the friend rate, and it is still like my previous Kickstarter, the Creatures and Creepies book. Oh god, they like didn't charge me for a long time because they were trying to make it like they were trying to combine my multiple publishing runs into one order so that I wasn't paying like $16, $17 a book. Because if I had just ordered the original, I think I ordered like originally like 200 books or 300 books, and if I had just paid for that, it would have been about like $17, $18 a book. And that was like all the money that Kickstarter made, so it covered that pretty much. It was a little insane.
And you can't in Kickstarters, it's a lot of work to do a Kickstarter. And I mean, you have to be paid for your time as well. I mean, even mine was on a small scale. I had like 200, I
Your
think,
audio's cutting
backers.
out.
Oh, my audio is cutting out. That's very strange. Are we? Let me make sure that
I
this
hear
is.
you now.
Are we doing okay there? Yeah. Let me know if anything else happens.
Okay.
So, like, my Kickstarter was tiny compared to a lot of people's. It was like 200 backers. And they were just pins. Like, they weren't big items. They weren't like super, super heavy, giant boxes that had to be shipped to me. And it still took me working like hours each day, like 3 weeks to get through all of them for like just 200. So basically, I was spending a lot of time doing this, fulfilling orders, like packaging. It was just meat packaging. I was spending all this time like packaging and checking the names and getting the orders together and like wrapping and unwrapping. And I had to check quality too. I'd unwrap every single pin and check for flaws and like, sort them out. And so this took like a lot of time. And I have to be able to get paid for that time because that's like, the saying, time is money. Like, if you're spending time working, you have to get paid for that, or else you're just like donating time to, and nobody's benefiting at that point. You're donating your time to nobody. So like to do a Kickstarter, you also have to be able to mark up the product enough that you're not just basically giving away stuff for free, like maybe to the customer, but it's like free to us, like as artists. So we can't make those risks as much as people like to wish that we could. And so, like, just to everyone out there, when you see a Kickstarter and a book is like $30 or $40 or even $50, I've seen a few for like really big hardcover ones. They really, really are that expensive to make. And so the artist is just trying to make sure their time is like worth it.
Yeah. In order to keep this one like even remotely plausible, I really didn't budget in the amount of hours that I spent and will be spending on it. I was like, I'm gonna hope it hits goal, and then after that, then whatever we make over that will actually pay me. Which is a little sad, but
well, and hopefully if all goes well, you'll be able to order a few extra books because you do conventions like I do as well. And you'll have books for sale online. So it's kind of a retroactive payment, which is not ideal. Like, you don't want to like work for a long time and then get paid months later, which Audrey might have some experience with in other ways. But we don't have to dive into that too much. Just like as a general note to people watching this, if you're not familiar with freelance, it's kind of common in the art world. It's a terrible practice, by the way, and I absolutely hate it, which is one reason I haven't done a lot of freelance. But they like to hire artists. Like, a lot of companies like to hire artists, have them work, and then they'll send a paycheck like a month or sometimes many months later, which is like in any other job is absolutely unheard of. Like, when we had an electrician come to the house, they did the work and we were expected to pay on the spot, right? Like, we got the product, we got to pay now. But a lot of I feel like I'm ranting. I'm not trying to rant. I'm sorry.
Do you want to start me on this? Do you want
passionate about this? But at least though, as on a Kickstarter, like, you're doing it on your own terms as well. Like, you know what you're getting into. And when we're working for ourselves, like making our own product and then selling our own product, at least we're doing it for ourselves. So the amount of money we make, at least after the fact, is going to be somewhat equivalent to the work we put into selling it. Like, our presence at shows and like hefting it around and stuff. At least that's like on us to make the money. But it's a little bit nicer to be able to make the money a little bit sooner and like in the future, because we get bills every month, as it turns out.
Yeah. For this Kickstarter, I will put myself in a lot of credit card debt to get like not the prints, because the prints can be done rather quickly, and I'm still like I'm holding out for a sale to come. But the enamel pins and the embroidered patches, because I had such a bad experience getting like a wood burned piece for my first Kickstarter that I was like, anything time consuming, I'm gonna order ahead of time. So those are like, the one just shipped to me yesterday, the embroidered patches, and then the pins are like on their way. But I was like, even if the Kickstarter fails, at least that's product I can go and sell at a convention.
Yeah,
So.
which is also, that's kind of the way that I approached my Kickstarter too, is like I was part of the Make 100. You made 100 of like an item, so like a limited edition thing.
Yeah.
And then I piled in 5 additional pins on top of that, possibly 6 or 7. I pretty much just made it like an open, like, let's see how many pins we can make. And they were all stretch goals. And whatever the Kickstarter funded for and made, I actually decided to use the rest of that money, or a good large amount of it, to double the order. Because it's like, pins are something that I want to carry at my booth throughout conventions. And that's where I make most of my money, is at conventions. Like 80 to 90% of it comes from conventions. So instead of me just using my good old credit card to rack up a huge bill before paying it off, I was able to utilize the Kickstarter to fund my convention stock, basically. So you can do it that way for sure. But it's nice to have a little bit left over, because then there's always people like after the fact going, do you have any of those books? Do you have any of those books that you were having a Kickstarter for? Whether they missed it or they weren't able to afford it or something, like, you want extras anyways.
I had a lot of that with my Make 100 pin. A lot of people came up afterwards and were like, do you still have them? I was like, nope. And I was going to do a different run, a different color run, but that pin maker definitely just stole my design. So it's like, I'm not going back there.
Oh, no.
Well, yeah, I told you that they sent one of the ripoff versions in my regular ones. So like I saw what they were putting out. They just switched it from gold medal to silver. I'm like, there's no way you accidentally made one silver.
No, those are in large quantities.
So yeah, I love enamel pins, and I really want to carry more, but it's finding a good producer of them is an enormous pain in the ass.
Yeah, like the problem, a big problem is that, especially with pins, because we have to resort to getting a lot of stuff made overseas. Like, that's just how it is. And like, there's nobody in the US or possibly even Europe, I don't know, I haven't really checked there, that make enamel pins. Like, there's no manufacturers. They're all in China. Which
one in France.
There might be one in France. But we have to resort to, like, we have to use the several, like, handful of manufacturers that we can find. And the problem is when you send stuff overseas, there's like this huge possibility of our work getting just flat out stolen and reproduced. And sometimes this can go on for like a long time, and we wouldn't find out until like years later or something, or like it shows up on that website called Wish or some crap like that. Which, by the way, don't shop there, because recently I came across a whole post of a whole bunch of artist enamel pin designs getting ripped off and sold on Wish. So to that website,
no to Wish, no to Alibaba, no
Alibaba. If you see a website that is selling a lot of like really cute, and you can tell they're like artist designed stuff for like cheap, that stuff's ripped off. I might cuss once in a while on this.
I already did. I broke that mold.
Yeah. I can
guarantee you. He had that with retail stores too. Like, wasn't it like Forever 21 has stolen a few artist design pins, and I think Kohl's recently did it too.
Forever 21 has, Kohl's has, Target has, Hot Topic has, H&M. All of these places have, and I think what happens is they hire an artist who basically goes online and just traces someone else's work and then turns it in. And then it's just like, oh, it must be legit and everything. So it happens a lot, and it's highly frustrating. So at least we can guarantee, hopefully, I I can't use like 100% guarantee because who knows what's out there. But when you go to a Kickstarter and you can tell it's the artist like who is running it, you know that is legit from the artist, and that's like actually coming from the source. So you're really actually doing the best to support the art through a Kickstarter or from the artist's website is also obviously a very good one. So don't shop those mass online cheap places. Like,
I mean, you can go on there and like find something you really like and take a screenshot and go on Twitter and be like, hey, who actually legitimately made this?
Twitter's a good place to do that.
Yeah, people will help you find it.
Yeah, luckily there's a lot of good souls out there who are very adamant about finding the real artists behind a lot of stuff online. And yes. I thank you. I thank you very much.
Oh my. Well, yeah, I mean, especially like if you're like a person that does any kind of fan art, that it's gone. It's stolen. It's stolen so much.
Fan art is definitely the number one thing that gets ripped off and stolen, and especially because it's such a legal gray area, it's hard to reinforce any sort of thing. Like are you gonna go online and be like, I drew that thing of that other IP and I own it, but I don't own it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You live and you learn.
Yeah, true. So try not to change. I'm going to switch this back to like just our faces.
Oh,
there we go. So Audre is interestingly in the middle of, should I say like a branding crisis?
Oh, I did change it to well, because yes, I did. Fine, we'll call it a branding crisis.
Well,
I would. What?
I was gonna say we can talk about. We've only got like about 10 minutes, but we can really go as long as we want. I think Carla and I accidentally went like an hour and 20 minutes, but
I also had that whole technical difficulties drama for like 10 minutes. So
that's true. Well, so we'll add on a little bit of time for that snafu. But I think it's a pretty well-known thing that a lot of us, especially any of us who started on like DeviantArt or anything like that, like back then when you're like just starting out as an artist, you have to have your art name. You have to have an art name, right? Right? I actually went through like 2 different art names. But in my case, like Croonenberghs is a long name, and it turns out that a lot of people can't say it right, can't spell it right, and also can't quite remember it. So for me, my art name was kind of doing a double duty where it was short. I made it just out of my name. It was Katie Marie Croonenberghs, so K-A and then M-A for Marie, and then Crew from Croonenberghs, but I did K-R-U instead of C-R-O-O because it looked weird that way. So aesthetically, K-A-M-A-K-R-U was how I made it. But that was like the short and sweet me version.
Yeah.
And that became my art name. And I still use that because it's like Katie Croonenberghs does not fit into literally any social media handle. Like I can't. It doesn't fit. It gets cut off or something like that. So Comic Crew is just the easy way of just find me. But if you Google Comic Crew or if you Google my name, like it all, you can find me anywhere. But for you, Audre, have you always used Charamath?
Well, I mean, I've had that name. I guess it was something I drew back in high school because it was like my original like IP dragon or whatever that I did. But originally, because I did, the socially acceptable to my family art of model horses for a while. So that way I was actually like Fox River artist back then because that's where I lived at the time. And then when I moved out here, I mean, mine wasn't necessarily like I needed people pronounce my name wrong and spell it wrong all the time. I get Audre Schutte or Audre Schutte like all the time, or Audra. I hate it, and it happens all the time.
Oh.
So yeah, part of it is definitely that, and there's also some author that has my name, oddly enough. Long dead, but it shows up in Google searches. But when I moved out here, it was largely that I had abusive person essentially stalking me. So I needed anything that had my name associated with it, like it would get hacked, or like he, spend a very long time trying to get into.
Yeah.
So I started going by Charamath so that I could actually have a website and a social media presence that he didn't know about. I mean, I'm sure he could have found it with enough sleuthing, but he wasn't as smart of a man as he thought he was. But I mean, and then it just kind of, so that was like my, protective shell all through college, and then afterwards because he still was trying to hack into my accounts as of like last year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been
That's
a decade. He has no hobbies apparently. So, but it's annoying now because when I go out and meet artists at a LuxCon or a Spectrum, then introduce myself, they have no idea who I am until I say Charamath, and I don't want to be the pretentious person that goes around and goes, "I'm Charamath." And,
That's what Brahm does, though.
But that's his last name.
I don't think it is. It though?
Is Gerald Brahm?
Is it Brahm? There was someone else though that did that though, and it wasn't their actual name. Maybe it wasn't Brahm. It was somebody else who goes by like.
There's quite a few people.
There are a lot of people that just go by their art name.
Android Jones and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah. So now I'm trying to get my name at least associated with Charamath so that I don't have to do the whole introducing myself as Charamath. But at the same time, Charamath is something I created. It doesn't exist like in anything. I made sure of that. So like if you Google search it, it's all me. And then it's easy to like sign, it's legible, it's short. So in that way it's really good for branding. You what?
Well, I still sign all my stuff with Katie Croonenberghs. It's pretty long.
See, when I signed my signature, no one could read it. My mother told me that was an artist trait, that you can't actually read our signatures, that like she told me it was too legible when I was in high school.
I guess. I've heard that when I was in high school, like, oh, bad handwriting means you're an artist. And I'm like, it just means I'm lazy and I don't really care what I'm writing. But sure.
Oh my God. I remember I had a writing instructor once who told me that she asked me what hand I was for, like, what was my dominant hand. And I like flaked and said left, and I'm right-handed. And she's like, oh, left-handed people are more artistic. And so from then on, I was like, I must be left-handed.
No.
I did have a little window of time, like freshman year, where I became ambidextrous, because like our freshman teacher, Dr. Becker, was very demanding. He's also hilarious. If you've ever played Kill Dr. Lucky, he is the model for Dr. Lucky. And
okay.
That's how he dresses every day. So like he's like time drawing. So I had like red Conte in one pencil or one hand and like white in the other, and I was doing both of them at the same time. And he's like, this is dedication. I was like, yes.
Ultra fast.
It was very stupid, but
yeah, it takes definitely a lot of time really just to kind of figure out what we're doing, right? So but as far as the name stuff goes, I think you can definitely do both. And I think that's kind of a misconception that a lot of people like, we have to be our name or we have to be like an art name. But everyone, like, I was really worried about that for a long time because for a long time I was just Comma Crew everywhere. Mm-hmm. I even had people refer to me as Comma Crew, like, and I would answer to it because I answered to like basically anything that starts with Ka. And then just say there were people that called me Kitty for some reason, and I was like, I would answer to it except I heard the K sound. That's not right though, by the way. But I have found that as long as, at least online and like on your convention banners and wherever you put it, as long as you have your real name and your art name, I think people just learn to recognize you by both names. Mostly because like I put out a poll. I think I was really curious about this. I think I put it on Twitter and maybe a few other places, and I asked people like, do you know me by my name or by Kamakru. And a lot of people surprisingly actually just said my name. Like, even though they knew Kamakru was like my art name, they just knew my name because that's how I I would display my social media as like, you know, Kamakru on Instagram, Kamakru art or whatever. But then underneath of it, my art name is like, well, not my art name, my name. It's listed on top of everything. So I think it's just a matter of making sure people see both a number of times, and then they just get used to coordinating, you know, like connecting the two together. And you just do both. So that way you can do Audre Schutte in the places that make sense. Or you can do Charamath, like on your website, for example, and like all of that. And then people will see both and they'll be like, oh yeah, Charamath is the artist Audre Schutte. And they'll see both. So
there's also the added side effect, or I guess you'd say, of so like my Instagram following has grown significantly like over the last 2 years that I've had it. And so I was Charamath on there for the longest time. And almost everybody thought I was a dude. Like, so many people think I'm a guy. I still get messages all the time. They're like, dude, like,
bro.
Oh. So after, like, I just recently, like, it was a couple months ago, I switched to Audre Charamath Schutte as the handle, and I noticed that, like, my following and my interactivity, or, you know, how many likes and comments and everything, definitely dropped. Like, as soon as I was, like, obviously a girl, interaction went down.
You're not the first woman that I have heard of this happening to. And there was actually a while where I would, instead of putting Katie, I would just put KC as like my initials, because people would think I was a guy that way. And I was like automatically getting more like respect, which is really fucked up, if you don't mind me saying. Because it's like this idea that women can't like friggin' just like draw awesome monsters or like do art or like be serious at their work is like absolute BS. Like, and the thing is like on DeviantArt, like I would almost say that a majority of the artists on there, like the serious ones, are women. They just don't put their names on there. I would bet that most of them are women. And you can see this like weird, dumb patriarchal phenomenon. I can't say that right. It happens in the art world, and like every single facet of everything is like if you're not a dude, then suddenly you're just like not serious enough about the work you do, or it's suddenly not good enough. Like, I could guarantee you, if you put up your like artwork in like a gallery, just like plastered the walls with monsters and like awesome stuff like that, and just didn't tell anyone that like you were like a lady, if you just like walked in there and you're like, I'm here, and you're like, who are you? People would probably just expect some dude to walk in.
Oh, definitely. I mean, yeah, because it's especially with like the horror theme stuff. I mean, well, because I ideally love to work in films, and like especially for, you know, Del Toro, because he's like one of the few original voices right now that's actually doing neat content, you know, afraid to go across boundaries. But like, well, I don't know if you were there for that conversation. I think it was just Bruce, but I was talking to Ron Lemon, and, you know, he asked me what I wanted to do, and I said, you know, I would like to be like Alan Williams and have, you know, my illustration career also occasionally cross into doing concept art for film. And he's like, well, this is going to be a lot harder for you because you're a woman. And I was like, oh shit. I mean, he wasn't being mean or anything. Like, he was, you know, straight up telling me it's a dudes club. Like, the whole thing is just like, there's a bar that is put, whether they realize it or not, because they're worried about like, if we have a girl in the studio, she's not gonna be able to like joke around with us and stupid shit.
Because art is apparently based on whether you can joke around or not.
I'm fully capable of joking around.
Thanks, jerks. Yeah.
No, I don't know.
a really frustrating thing. And in a few ways, that's almost, I don't know, maybe that's one of the reasons why I just kind of stopped looking, because I went to school for game art and design, right? Video game, like literally the epitome of a male saturation as far as like the production of. And like when I went to the school I went to, I walked in my first class, which was like the main, like a majority of everybody there.
Mm-hmm.
There were 3 women. There were 3 of us.
Oh,
3. Wow. That entire class. And let me tell you, there was some weird, awkward stuff happening throughout that entire class. Because like a lot of us girls, I mean, the teachers, they liked me, they appreciated what I did and everything. But a lot of the guys were just like, whatever, it's not, you're just here because you think games are cool. And I'm like, no, I'm here because I actually like concept art and like creating monsters and stuff. And like, not really monsters on my side. I like to do like creatures and like less of the scary style of animals. But I did have to learn how to do like zombies and like guts and like all that, because if you're doing concept art for games, you kind of have to like know all that as well. But I definitely got a decent taste of a little bit of that. And that was even like the most accepting of realms, because once I started trying to apply to like game studios, I would actually visit a couple of them and it's like, these are all dudes. There's like 2 ladies and you could tell they were trying their best to just get their work done.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at what's going on with, I mean, I went to a game design college too, and the art program was about 50-50, which was pretty good. Or not 50, it was like,
I mean, that's pretty
like 30-70. Yeah, it was the most, pretty much like 90% of the females in the school were all in this program. And I mean, there was also like programming, developers, game design. So there was a very big dude fest, like right outside of our classes, and there was definitely some awkward things and some guys who needed boundaries. But
it's unfortunate.
Yeah, but I mean, one of the reasons, I haven't really applied to studios recently, largely because of the whole like what's coming out with Riot and how like that's the culture is so ingrained that it's just uncomfortable to work there. It's like as long as I'm doing okay on my own, I don't need to deal with that bullshit. Like why would I? Like it would be awesome to like work on like Warcraft or something, but I don't want to deal with having the talk down to constantly and having everything questioned because you can't be a real gamer if you're a girl. It's
Yeah, it's definitely a struggle that I think we're gonna have to deal with for a very long time, and I don't understand why. It's weird because like I've also experienced this in like different areas of what we do now, because if you're not working for a game studio and having the directors just like look down on you like, oh, you're a woman, like you don't know what you're really doing, instead of hearing it from them, a lot of times we almost like just hear it from the general population now. Like a lot of people will be like I can't tell you how many times like I've had artist friends who will have messages like DMs from guys being like, you didn't really do this right, or this thing is wrong. Like the whole, I guess, mansplaining thing. It comes out of nowhere. It comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And like I've had people walk up to my booth as well at a convention and just like try to school me on something, and I'm like, dude, like what? Would you do this to another guy? Like, are you doing this to other guys? Because I want to follow you around in a supposedly creepy way.
Are you this awkward everywhere?
If you do it to anybody else except like women, because I have to know. Because like I don't get women doing it to me, like, which is weird, right?
Yeah. No, there are conventions I haven't gone back to because of that. Because of like guys that have come up to my booth and like started explaining to me like the biomechanics of the creatures I design. I was like, yeah, I know why his pupils are shaped like that. Like I have studied biology extensively, Like,
How
and they just talk over me.
how could you know things? You don't have brains or anything like that.
It's like, you're just drawing that. You don't really know what you're doing. It's like, it wouldn't be a cohesive drawing if I didn't have some idea what I was doing.
Yeah, for anybody wondering, Audrey has like some of the literal best anatomy abilities of anybody I know. So just FYI, like including most guys. So hello. My opinion, I'm sticking to it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's like, I should actually find my other creatures that aren't my Yupo paper.
And the funny thing is though, is that like I've had so many people like when you're drawing, like especially with my dragons. Let me know when you want me to pull up your screen and I'll do that. But like with my dragons, I've had a lot of people come up and be like, dragons don't have feathers. And I'm like, what makes you tell me that dragons don't have feathers? Like,
They're the same people that are very upset about dinosaur feathers.
I was gonna say, it's like I'm pretty sure that there's actual like evolutionary like evidence that there are creatures that have lived on this earth literally that had scales and feathers, sometimes at the same time, sometimes in different forms or different patterns. And it's like, do any of these people like actually look at history or like the past like history of our earth? Like, so just FYI, anyone who does this stuff to someone else, like to side to school, there's a really good chance you're making a huge fool of yourself to this person, and they're just nodding, going, "This is not worth my time." There's a lot of stuff flashing through their mind, going, "Oh, it's one of these dumbass."
Okay, I have it on my website.
I know that sounds harsh, but I'm trying to just. There we go. So yeah, this is your website.
Yeah. So these are some of the there's the mythic made creatures, but yeah, so like this was me thinking of like a predatory kind of orangutan, and so the whole thing is that they pack hunt in one big group, and then they make these big whooping calls and kind of like funnel groups of prey animals.
That's what like
with these noises,
like the pouches on the side of the neck is kind of like what what's the type of, there's a primate monkey that has that too as well. Like, is it the howler?
There's like a howler monkey. You'll see it in like hooded seals. It's just essentially it's like a fleshy residence chamber.
Mm-hmm.
And then so it's got like traits from like geckos with the feet, where it's got the skin folds that help it with gripping, and the hands are kind of based more off of like an eye with their little long grasp. Well, not like the super long grabbing grub's fingers, but I wanted that like, or I guess it's more marsupial, like a koala, the spread hands thing. But so yes, I do have some semblance of anatomy. Or at least my favorite subject in college was biology, and the bio professor loved me. I need to talk to that man. Though apparently my webpage need to go through and tweak this because this banner is cropping this.
And one thing I like about your designs, and this is something that is essential to concept art, is that like everything on a creature is intentional in some way. Like, right? Like you think about like, I mean, I know that sometimes it's just like, it would be cool if, insert whatever thing is here. There's always that amount of thing, but you have to know enough about anatomy and about how animals work to be able to piece it together in a way that like it could actually function.
Yeah.
How does it eat? Maybe it sleeps in a certain way. Maybe it uses these spikes or these horns to do this other thing. So that's actually like, that's really cool to see all of that like kind of come together in your sketches.
Yeah. So like, there's like the obviously fantasy of like the Payuk, which, is because that's a mythical creature that's, it's half magic.
Right. And you know what? Just like an FYI to everyone out there, if you've ever picked up a book of like mythological creatures, like a dictionary style book, if you read through some of those things, there's some weird stuff in there. So there's like nothing that we can create that's any weirder that like past civilizations have created.
Yeah. There's some fantastic ones. I will not get into it because that could be a whole other rabbit hole. But yeah, so it comes down with creature design where it's like you have to actually think, like, is this a magical mythical thing, or is this something that's actually I have to show could evolve and is a real like living breathing thing. So that's where like the tree howler or this like Deathclaw variant are like real things. Like this could live and exist.
Right.
And versus this not so much.
Maybe the monster, the train.
Oh yeah.
The
I love this one. That was like one of the most fun commissions someone's ever asked me for. They're like, I want a train and I want creepy. And I was like, what about body horror? And they were like, yes.
All right, got you, friend.
But yeah, so that's that stuff.
So that's really cool. I guess without going into any extreme ranting about personal frustrations with being a woman artist, I guess, because that could go on for days.
We segued, yeah.
So Audrey, what's your next show?
The dual one of Rose City and Son of Monsterpalooza.
Which one are you going to be at?
I'll be at Son of Monsterpalooza.
Monsterpalooza. Okay.
Yeah.
Ah, sad. I'm going to be at the Rose City one.
I know. I was a little bummed about that. I was like, God, everybody I know is, and then you were like, you're right next to me. I was like, ah, God.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I don't even know how that happened because I don't remember asking them to put us next to each other, but our booths are right next to each other. And I think Bruce's booth is just like kind of kitty corner, like across the road.
Oh, really? That'll be great. That way you guys can watch the panic sitting on Ernesto's face.
He's got some help if needed.
He's telling me, he's like, I'm just going to put out a little sign. I'll be back. I'm peeing, like, whenever he leaves the booth. Because, like, I can go for almost the entire day without going to the bathroom. Like, which is not healthy at all. But,
no,
like, I've trained myself to do that. And he is tiny bladdered man.
Well, I'm going to hopefully have at least one or two assistants at that show. So I can always have one of them kind of cover the booth, make sure nothing happens to it.
I potentially have a friend helping him, so we'll see.
Cool.
He's very optimistic about his chances. I am not as much.
Yeah, I don't think I've only done maybe one show, and it was Emerald City, where I did not leave my booth all day long. It's not fun. It's not easy. Just go. Just make them go.
Like ideally, I would actually have him be at Son of Monsterpalooza because that one's a much more low-key event. But Son of Monsterpalooza is a more industry contact one, so it's a lot of monster artists, special effects, makeup artists, and things like that. So, like, I kind of need to be there to potentially get work contacts versus Rose City is more.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Rose City. He should be okay. It's like kind of a medium-sized show. There can be times when it gets pretty busy, but otherwise he should be okay during it. It's not like Emerald City. It's not like Emerald City big, for sure. But I do notice that a lot of people from Emerald City, from Seattle, that people that go to Emerald City that are local enough to the area will often go to Rose City as like their fall convention. Like they'll do both of those.
Yeah.
So I do notice a decent amount of crossover just because of that. But I'm actually kind of hoping this year's a little bit bigger than last. They've been growing pretty well lately. So I've got high hopes that it'll continue.
Last year you had an exhibitor booth, right?
I've had an exhibitor booth for the past 4 years.
Yeah, because I was in the Artist Alley, and that was a hot mess because they had the David Tennant there. And like people would come in just to get his signature and then like just clog the whole Artist Alley aisle, and then they would just leave. Like none of them would buy anything. They were just there for him, and then they would leave.
That's very terrible organizing.
Yeah, it was sad. So this year, David Tennant's not there, but the other two doctors are, like Matt Smith and Eccleston. So those two are there. So I was like, it's happening again.
Oh no!
But this year, at least I have an exhibitor booth.
Yeah, we've got exhibitor booths, and I did request to try to be like as close to the artist alley as I could get because I like to be, I guess, within like sight of the artist alley. So as people leave the artist alley, they could see like there's other art. And I think most people are starting to kind of realize that artists are also vendors now. Like we have bigger booths now than we used to. And I think they kind of placed the artists together at this show. So luckily, it's kind of like it's like an unofficial like art block. This kind of like between.
It's just you got to bridge the gap of a comic book. There's like a wall of comic book people, or not comic book, but big comic book distributors, and then there's artists again.
Yeah. I kind of do wish they would put them a little bit closer together, and I kind of wish that more shows would have an artist block of like big booths that were just together. Even though I know that some artists think that it's like a really good idea to separate the art, like sprinkle the artists throughout the show, but I don't know how I feel about that. Like they think it helps to have like artists between comic book people because then the art would stand out. But in another way though, like when people are looking for art, they kind of want all the artists together, like in an area. Because if you're in like a whole different part of the show, like we could be missed over there. And then people finally get to your booth and they're like, oh, I already bought all my art.
I could kind of see, well, it's also that like I do enjoy artist alleys just for the fact that usually you have great neighbors that are like totally willing to help you out versus vendors, not so much. It's a little bit more cutthroat from vendor to vendor versus artist to artist.
Yeah, artists, and I'm this way. Like I'm definitely like willing to help another artist out if they're nice to me. I have had some other people not be super nice. I was actually next to a guy at Rose City who drove me just crazy, just nuts. He had like this. He was the guy that had the gigantic, like 40-foot tall booth right next to me, and the face guy. And I mean, aside from looking at that all day, it didn't really bother me too much, except that he was very, very vocal. And so he would walk around and like you could kind of hear him, but I mean, he would stay in his space like pretty much throughout the day, but he'd like walk back and forth, which is fine. Like that's totally fine.
Yeah.
But at one point I was talking with Bruce and another artist. We were kind of like standing outside my booth because I had like one of my first really, really big setups that year. Mm-hmm. And the other artists and Bruce, they were asking me about my setup and like how I was doing and how I was like running my booth and everything. Cause it was like a pretty good year. And I had like canvases and I had like a whole new like double deep like table, like when I was utilizing like 3 tables instead of just 2, all of that. They're asking me about that. And he just like wanders on over and jumps into our group and tells the other people, not looking at me, I can tell you all about booth setup and business and how to make money doing art.
Oh, God.
And I'm just looking, I'm pretty sure on my face I had a death look because my assistant's standing there and she's looking at me with like wide eyes, like, and I'm like, I'm going to burst into flames. I cannot believe he just did that. He just talked right over me. And I'm like, dude, do you have, like, first of all, like, he was talking to like other like to Bruce who does fantasy illustration art and like another fantasy artist. So, and he had not
fan art,
fantasy.
Just fan
he was
art.
Had nothing. There was nothing similar between like the way he was running his business and ours. And I guess that's another a guy thing, right?
I have my Crypticon was kind of not quite as bad. Well, I mean, I think I've mentioned this before, but like they had like a guest artist, some guy that they paid to come there, and he was a TNA guy, lots of butts and boobs, and so he's a comic book artist, and I mean, he had like a decent Pumpkinhead thing, but
Cool.
like he had this spiel about some Egyptian queen, and he just kept every time he'd see a woman, he would break into this little spiel about this Egyptian queen to try and make it seem like he was a feminist, like this is how I get the ladies to come to my booth, and like everything that he had with the lady was like super sexualized. But he's like,
I
but
mean,
I know this story about this Egyptian queen,
thing about
and he did not like me because I was doing better than him.
the
It
thing
was
about art is like you shouldn't have to try to explain it to people to convince them that they would like it, right? Like if people are walking by their like your booth and they're not paying attention, if you're relying on like some sort of story about an Egyptian queen to get people to like your art, maybe you're like pandering to the wrong audience.
well, it was definitely like this thing because he had actually been a problem for a friend of mine like 2 years previous,
So it's just
because she had what.
I was gonna say it's just like a him thing then.
Yeah, well, because he was pulling people away from her booth, like he would
That's
go and
rude. Big no.
yeah.
Big
So
no.
he kept because it was I was pretty good friends with the girl next to me, and then I had my friend Jade down the way, and so like there was a decent group of artists, like actual fantasy horror artists there that were getting along super well, and across me there was an older guy selling more TNA, and he was not doing terribly well. His stuff was he needed some anatomy work just to,
I mean, yeah, there's always going to be artists of different
yeah, they just
levels.
needed some time to hone the skills. But
Yeah.
like the guy next to me that was a professional comic book artist that kept trying to get women, convince him. He was like yelling across the aisle to the other TNA guy, so they were like trying to form like a TNA bro thing going on, and I was just like, this is just odd
Weird.
and awkward, and yeah, and it was weird because apparently he was like friends with the convention owner's son. So like I was like, okay, this explains a lot. So yeah, when I like got waitlisted for the next year, I was like, I kind of wonder because I've been doing that show for years, and all of a sudden I got waitlisted. And I was like, because yeah, I didn't talk to that dude. Like I didn't do or say anything to him, but like you just give me like hostile looks whenever I had like a big crowd, and I was like, whatever, I can't.
It's kind of weird that somebody could kind of like cast shade at you because you're doing well, but not because you're shouting at anybody. Just that I've been in that situation too, and it's very awkward because like, why would someone hate you because you're just doing what you're doing without like impeding on someone else's sales, like intentionally? Like, don't be like shout, like don't carnival bark at people. Like don't do that.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, excuse me. That did happen at Denver Comic Con one year when I was my double table at the arts alley was pulling a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy across from me absolutely hated it. I'm pretty sure he blamed me for like everything that was going wrong at his booth, which was actually like quite a lot of problems, which we won't need to dive into. We'll just assume that he was a very new artist and he had a lot of things that were just not working out. But he was very nice to everybody, except he never once talked to me or said hi to me. He would just glare like angrily at me the entire convention. And I would like wave at him because I would say hi to my neighbors. Like I usually say hi to everybody around me. And I'd wave at him and he would never respond. I don't know. It just
he can't, I don't know. I was like, I'm pretty sure I borrowed him like a pen or like lend him a pen at one point because he was like trying to sign something and couldn't find his Sharpie, but like just would not speak to me. And then the same with the guy. The guy across wasn't giving me like hostile looks. He just looked sad. And I mean, they were both like older guys. Well, not like older, but like,
maybe
40s.
Used to a different scene, used to a different art scene.
Yeah, I think a lot of younger artists are starting to go to that convention, and the old guard is not particularly pleased. So yeah, and I did have 2 tables, which was awesome, but they told me like this is a temporary thing, just this once. And then so I tried getting an exhibitor booth, and yeah, then I just got waitlisted. So I wonder if like someone raised a stink because I had 2 tables this year.
Yeah, some things unfortunately just can't really have control over as far as that goes.
Yeah, it's sad. It was a fun show.
Yeah, but like we do have to wrap it up because we're almost at like an hour and a half. But I will like end it with like, if anyone's watching this and you're like thinking about doing conventions or you're just starting doing conventions, like just an FYI.
Week.
Well, I mean, like, yeah, there's like all that kind of stuff. But like, as someone who I do consider myself a veteran, I've been doing this for like 15 years. I've got about 50 conventions under my belt, so I've got a little bit of experience doing this. Like, if you ask me stuff, like, I'm pretty willing to answer a lot of things about how I run my business and do like table setups and stuff like that. Like, make friends with other artists that are doing well. Don't make enemies out of them, because you like, if you see another booth that's doing well, go see what you can learn from them. Like, just ask them, like, see if they can give you a pointer about your own setup, if they can like see it from their table or something. And like, I've helped a lot of other artists like reconfigure their table setup at a convention. I'm a little bit addicted to table setups. I love display, but I am more than willing to help somebody like improve their own setup, because I don't see it as like some sort of weird competition, because everyone's doing their own type of art and their own brand and their own way and everything. So like, make friends with the people that are doing well, because there's a good chance that you're going to learn some stuff from them that'll help you do better, like at least that time or at least in the future. So make friends.
That's the entire art career. Make friends. It's all about who you know and who you're friends with.
That's probably a good, yeah. That's good advice for everything. Just be nice to others, no matter what you're doing.
If you're not sure, what would Bob Ross do?
All right, so let's wrap it up. If there's anything we need to say before ending this stream, I guess it would be if you want to check out our social medias, our website, links to our Patreons, all of that, that's all going to be in the description of this video. So you can go down there and you can get all of that extra content, and follow us, you know, on Instagram or Twitter or whatever your favorite thing is.
Not really.
No.
Don't find me on the street.
Don't do that. Yeah. If you recognize an artist on the street, like, maybe just you know, not do that. All right. I'm gonna end this before I go into like another coughing fit pretty soon. I'm doing okay, but yeah, it's been something I've been controlling for the past like half an hour.
Oh God.
No, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, so if you're watching this, thanks for watching this almost hour and a half long video of us talking about a lot of random things, and I hope you learned something.
I don't even know if we stay on that subject at all.
Well, thanks for joining me, Audrey, and I will see everybody in the next video. Bye.
We just did Markiplier. We just combined in Markiplier.